They traded Doomfist tips and all, and they definitely respect each other as a lot as Doomfist player. They both rate each other very highly as well as Doomfist players, so eventually we may see that matchup, but right now, gonna start things out on Shrine.
And I'm seeing a Wrecking Ball. I'm assuming that is T1W.
Pretty much.
Far as well.
Yep. That means Sparkle's going to be starting out on the... Oh, it's actually going to be Hanbin on Zai. Sparkle's going to be on the Doomfist straight away, but he's looking to swap.
Yeah, so they've certainly got that one out. Element Mystic go, no, we see what you're playing, we want to reassess. Moving quickly as well. So T1W are on the point, but Element Mystic might just be able to get back before it's capped.
And this is the kind of composition, again, remember, we played T1W versus Talon. Talon basically ran T1W's composition, which is hard for a Doomfist to do anything against. And now we're playing Swap Chicken, and T1W's like, all right, well, we're swapping too.
Yeah, what a double bluff this is.
And now Element Mystic swapping too.
Oh man, I mean, how many, is this just going to be it? Everyone's just going to swap until T1W's at 99%, but they did also squeeze out a point cap in among all of that, and EM have actually just walked into this with the matchup they were wanting.
But that's the thing, despite T1W capping, I think Element Mystic got the matchup, like you mentioned, the one they wanted, and so Sparkle's already in, he's looking for a target. Instant sleep dart though.
And he gets taken down. T1W answering that one pretty quick, smart. Gonna find Hanbin as well. Alpha gonna drop, and T1W not only getting the cap, they're also gonna get that first fight win.
I'm sorry, did I say T1W started cold? Because they are firing on all cylinders. You see that shutdown? That was extreme. Sparkle got nothing done. Instant shield bash by Milan run, instant sleep dart by Weir, instant Bionade. They put everything on him, and he melted.
That being said, Doa has still managed to charge up an EMP. I mean, that's just the power of this guy. I mean, sure, but Assassin won a fight, right? Like, that is the thing that Element Mystic do have to lean on coming into this critically. And they do pour a lot of resources into Sparkle. Maybe that's the difference. Look, in the ultless fight, you don't have that extra bit of support. You can put a bubble on him, and after that, there's not a lot else you can do. That does make him a bit easy to shut down. When ultimates come into play, it could be a very different story.
And we're going to pause coming into play. Sparkle didn't get the first kill, so something must be wrong with this computer. We are going to address that issue.
I died on Doomfist, that's not right.
But all jokes aside, this is a very good start for T1W, and I do like the bit of Swap Chicken right at the start with the compositions. You have on one side a very good composition versus Doomfist. We saw that in the opening matchup. That's what T1W were looking for. Element Mystic sticking in the base, and you're almost right in saying, look, eventually, if both teams just stay in their base and keep swapping, T1W actually already capped out, and they're getting the timer up, they're getting the percentage points up. It actually should be on the Element Mystic side of things to be under pressure to get to the point in time, which allows T1W to get the better matchup, but the opposite happened because T1W capped, and it was actually Element Mystic then getting the better matchup.
And that's the crazy thing though, right? Element Mystic, they got the matchup that they were fishing for with all that swapping back and forth, but still coming to the point T1W actually won that fight. Look, it's only the one fight, but it also gives them an ultimate advantage. In theory, if they can snowball ahead from here, it might not be until about 99% that Element Mystic not only have the matchup they want, but also an actual winnable fight with that matchup.
And speaking to the two Sombra players in the competition as well, I'm going to speak outside of the specific matchup because we talked to LGE, who is Hacker, and he said, look, I really respect Doa's Sombra as well, but what he really brings to the table, the one thing that he brings to the table that's probably stronger than me is ult charge time and like the up rate on the EMP. And other than that, Hack I think is probably better. But when you look at Doa right now, you really do have to compare looking at Assassin, looking at the other team, and then looking back at Doa and saying, is this EMP uptime really, really good? So far, you'd say the evidence is yes, because like you mentioned, despite losing the fight, he's got an EMP. Assassin's got one, but they did win the fight.
And also, I mean, not only does he have the EMP, he's also pretty far ahead of most of his own teammates in terms of ultimate charge, which goes to show, like if everyone was at about 80% despite losing the fight and Doa had an EMP, you'd be like, okay, that's situation normal. That's not unprecedented for a Sombra. It's the disparity on top of it as well that really just... I mean, it shows the skill, but the question is really, is one EMP enough to now give EM something to win a fight off when you consider T1W just flat have more ultimates?
Oh, look, Runaway is here. Anyway, one role I do want to look at that we haven't quite talked about is actually on the support side as we do get back into game and they are winning the fight regardless. And Wii is actually the one I want to talk about, and before I get there, wow, Element Mystic.
So, I mean, question answered, right? One EMP is absolutely enough because apparently Hanbin does a lot of damage.
He does. What I want to say about Weir is it comes down to support players on the flex position. So we do get to see a replay of how this kind of happened. Okay, this was actually the one onto Sparkle. So again, just absolutely beautiful layering of the CC and then the Bionade and back to life.
Trying to push straight in, though. The hack on
He's
Sparkle
down
means
again.
he goes down, and EMP immediately committed. Doa doesn't get caught in it, but he's got no counter EMP. He doesn't care, right? It doesn't matter to T1W. They're just going to clean up the front line, get those main tanks out of the mix. Undyne would have been dead in the path of Silver's charge, but dies before Silver gets there. That's going to be T1W swinging it back, recapping the point.
And I think when you look at those kind of plays with the sleep darts, with the bionades, if those can land on critical members like Sparkle, like Doa as well, that's how you can shut down the EMP plays, all the Doomfist kits. You look at We and Undyne as those kind of members. Now, T1W do have the cap back in, they still do have the lead. They do still have ultimates as well, so looking at Element Mystic, can they get opening Pixie? Can Doa get this next EMP up in time?
I mean, I'd like to imagine he can, and then they will need to win a fight based off just that alone. T1W, though, not going to give them that sort of breathing room. A lot of ultimates already committed, but finally the kills start to come through. That was a nano boost, a shatter, and then also a grab to finally start getting kills. But it is enough kills to push them over the threshold of 95%.
I think this could be it. Element Mystic is still waiting for respawners. What members are alive are trying to get out. Sparkle's been found again.
Straight on the point, straight into the grave. T1W looking pretty good on this last little bit of the whole. Silver, another shatter actually available for himself. Alpha's own shatter, though. This could be an opening. Doa comes in with an EMP, gets a couple of members. Element Mystic not out of this one just yet. T1W desperately trying to keep a lid on the respawners.
Still winning.
They do find Alpha. Sleep on Doha as well. Means he is ineffective for the time being. Looking to finish off Unique on the side. Sparkle as well. Onto the point. Immediately killed. And T1W going to draw first blood here onto Paul.
This is really, really good from them. I wanted to say unprecedented, but to be fair, I mean, this is the kind of matchup we've been waiting for, someone to really take up the DPS versus Element Mystic. You see the way they're shutting down Sparkle as well. Usually this guy gets away with murder, quite literally in this game, but when he's been found out, when everyone's turning away and turning at him, saying, okay, we see where you're at, we're going to throw CC in your face now, you're not going to get a lot of damage done, that's when they're getting a lot of mileage. And so far, you have to now look at Sparkle and say, how much more Doomfist can you play? Was it just the opening round? Is that a warm-up for them? Are they the ones coming in cold?
And look, Element Mystic are used to just pouring resources into Sparkle to keep him out of trouble, but T1W are really starting to test the limits of that, and so far have just kept a complete lid on the guy.
So now we're looking at T1W rolling out with a standard 3-3, the most classic of them all, the Ryan version even. Element Mystic should be within their depth. This should be what they are very comfortable playing into, and expecting a lot of big plays from them.
And this is the composition they've had an easier time enabling Sparkle against as well. So again, T1W, they're actually going to have to really see or show us how they're going to shut down Sparkle with a 3-3, because that's what EM have been good at getting over.
Decent Bionade from Undyne as well, just keeping Element Mystic in there. Humbin trying to do as much damage as he can, but points going the way of T1W so far.
But the members are super, super low, and with High B out of the mix, Silver still on the cusp of death as he has been for so long, and this is where Sparkle can start getting in the back line, trying to make some magic happen. Stays alive, just barely. Regrab comes through for Element Mystic. Sparkle does go down, so this could be T1W's turn to push back in as High B does get back in the mech. There has been a nano boost committed out from Undyne, but to no effect. Unfortunately, T1W going to win the fight, push back in, and Eaton Hanbin's grab was just icing on the cake.
Honestly, that's like a 2-for-1, because Undyne used the nano boost onto Hanbin to speed up the Graviton Surge charge, and he's been the number 2 recipient of the nano boost after Sparkle, and in some cases, even maybe 50-50, depending on the situation. Element Mystic kind of getting shut down in a couple places you're not quite expecting. Coming back in now, EMP available, they get grabbed.
Big grab out from Assassin, already the kills coming in as well. T1W, just no hesitation, really pulling the trigger quick smart on that, and again, we find them off to a lead in what we actually would have said is an even more favored composition for EM.
And no defense, unfortunately, against the side of the Graviton Surge coming through from Assassin, because Undyne, or Unique rather, only just got the sound barrier as he went down, as the rest of Element Mystic went down as well. Undyne's obviously playing an Ana, so there's no Transcendence there. That's the payoff, that's the unfortunate risk you take.
Here's the thing that can change it all, though. The EMP from Doha throws it out on top of the squad. Weir has still got a Transcendence, doesn't commit it. Silver is down, and it's going to go ahead and... did that get cancelled out? That's a little unfortunate there.
Regardless, T1W losing a decent amount of members here.
Yep. EM are going to be able to get that fight off the back of the EMP. So when all else fails, Doha's EMPs are still helping helping EM win fights against T1W.
So let's look at the two sides of this coin for the Ana. Unique here, or rather Undyne here. If he's playing the Ana, he doesn't have a Transcendence versus something like Graviton Surge, but also when you use your own Graviton Surge and the Transcendence comes through from Weir, guess what? You have a Bionade, lands on Silver, he's instantly taken down.
So there we go. Only really the sound barrier and the self-destruct to work with. So T1W, they've got a lot of ground to make back up in the macro game. And that's to say nothing of the fact that finally EM feel like they can enable Sparkle. Getting right into the thick of it. He does end up dying, but the damage he lays out, along with the tank front line there, just keeping a lid on T1W. That's technically a gong. He'll take it.
And we got to see if the momentum can continue here for Element Mystic, because so far on Shrine you would say it didn't. T1W were able to get a nice amount of counter trades, winning fights, and also recapping points. And going to this kind of matchup, Element Mystic are only just winning a couple fights in a row, catching up now and just barely overtaking percentage points. Grav back in.
I think this is where it gets harder though. That is so massive from Sparkle, who has finally arrived at the match. I mean, EM had so much to work with. The fact that they won that off only the grab is, I mean, more than you could have ever hoped for, really.
And looking for a huge stagger onto Assassin of all members. You don't usually see a Zarya getting staggered, but here you go.
Oh, and the sleep as well. That's gross. Sparkle's going to do the honors.
I almost would have liked to see maybe T1W try and push into that one, but as they do now, they're going to get hacked out. And
this is a 5 versus 6 as well. They maybe wanted to fade it out and pull back, but they did also commit a sound barrier. A lot of members dead now as we hit that 99% mark, and I guess that is why T1W felt the need to commit, didn't want to wait for a respawn, didn't want to go in last ditch, just committed as quickly as they could, but does not pay off. EM have all the answers, all the ultimates, so now tied up, we are on Nepal.
T1W looks so good for so long in the early phases. They're getting a decent amount of trades, they were able to win these fights. You saw Weir kind of landing a decent amount of shots as Anna as well. And then you're starting to get into a phase where once Element Mystic or Weir on Zen or Anna, but once you can see Element Mystic kind of take the reins, take control of the point, Sparkle's not getting shut down anymore. He's not having to push into the side of T1W. It's the opposite happening. T1W trying to push into Element Mystic and Sparkle hiding on the side, and they're able to get that long stagger towards the end. T1W not making a very quick decision, decided to go in after Assassin went down. If you go in while he's still being staggered, maybe you can make something happen. If you wait for him to respawn, maybe you can make something happen. Doing neither of those, unfortunate.
Yeah, right. This is what I want to see, though, out from T1W, is something completely different again. 3 maps of control, 3 completely different team comps. Let's see if this one can shut down Sparkle.
And T1W have the kind of potential to do so. They've already got 1 round in the bank, and they have to play quite defensively here, so expecting Element Mystic to try and take point control if available.
They're able to get some good spam damage out as well, and you're really seeing the fruits of that. Malan Rand does get found out by the side, but Doha found out in return, so even Stevens. This is where Element Mystic can start getting on the point itself, though, because T1W, they haven't been able to get enough damage to get more kills. That means the EM have the better positioning right now.
That's a big error from T1W, because now they have to push into the point. That's not what this composition is designed to do. They want to be defending it, and that's not what's happening.
Yeah, and also losing Hybe, who was otherwise pressuring the point itself, at least temporarily while he slept. That's Sparkle going in, finding Weir, and that's with that Immortality field down. You just punch him right out of it, no problems there. Rez does come in, Hybe demeched, and Sparkle's just keeping the pressure on, now still not going down just yet. Alpha's picking up some kills of his own. T1W struggling to make headway here.
This is where you're stuck between a rock and a hard place with T1W, because you realistically should be thinking about changing composition. However, you're giving away potentially up to 5 ultimates in doing so. They're going to try and re-push anyway, because that's probably the safest thing to do here. But again, they do not have the type of composition that can safely do so. They do not have the type of composition that is designed to push in.
T1W are slightly ahead in ultimates though, and that could be what they need. Malanran though throws out the EMP and instantly goes down to Sparkle. If you don't hack that Doomfist, you best believe you're going to get smacked about in the ring. So, I mean, Element Mystic just handled that like it was nothing.
I'll tell you what, they're trying to pull their arm out of the rock, but it's still not happening for them right now. T1W, they're still stuck in the same place because they still have ultimates, and what are you supposed to do here? Do you use the ultimates, stay on the comp? Do you swap? They're still not going to swap, but we're 70% deep in the round. If they don't want to swap now, they've got to commit to this forever, and if you do that, you might just lose.
And now that fraction of a lead they had in getting some of those ultimates available first has completely evaporated. It's amounted to now as T1W just going to have to push in anyway. Dragon Strike trying to rake across Element Mystic. They found out Alpha, and that is the first casualty of the fight. So this could be where T1W can make some headway. They push in, but Sparkle's got something else to say about it, as it's still in possession of Element Mystic, still rounding the bend towards 99%. T1W might not even get a toe on this point. Overtime already ticking down. No one's there to contest it. T1W experiencing what they did to Talon just a moment ago, as Element Mystic going to win our first map.
And that was actually still kind of winnable for T1W, even on that third round. You look at a world where they don't just let the point go. You have a spam composition, you have a bunker, you are trading damage on top of the point, you're winning that damage trade because you have an Orisa protecting you. As soon as you let that point go, you have to start pushing on top of the point. You can't do that with a bunker composition. You basically lost unless you want to swap. They didn't want to swap. Pretty stubborn in that case. You do have to give them respect because they do want to use the ultimates. Understandable, but again, as described, it's between a rock and a hard place. Neither decision feels really good, and unfortunately, that's going to end up costing them that round 3 on Sanctum. It's going to give Element Mystic that opening win in the game.
I actually think that's what Sparkle and Doha should change their names to, Rock and Hard Place, because that is what it feels like playing against Element Mystic, right? If you're between a rock and a hard place, half the time it seems to be just either one of those two keeping a lid on you. Sparkle fragging out, Doha charging up ultimates, enabling engages and things for his team to do, ways for them to charge up the rest of their ultimates. And let's also give credit to the tank line there on Element Mystic, who were right in the thick of that frontline charge with Sparkle.
And I think we go back to the opening round of Shrine as well. Very, very nice, very well played by the side of T1W, going on to then following it was Village, and that was a little bit more 50-50. You felt like, okay, T1W is still in this one, but it was a little bit tough. By the time we got to the end, it was all Element Mystic. We'll see if it's still Element Mystic when we come back from the break in our third match of the day. See you soon.
Огонь по готовности! Огонь по готовности!
Welcome back, everyone, to the Pacific Showdown here in Shanghai. We're midway through our third match of the day here in the winners bracket, and so far it's been a decently competitive game from T1W, but as expected, Element Mystic taking the lead.
And obviously that means T1W are the one that needs to answer back. They need to show us what they can maybe achieve when they also get to pick the map. I mean, I don't know what we can really say compositionally wise, right? Like, it's hard to say, oh, they need to tighten up this composition or they need to tighten up this, because they've played 3 different ones so far to varying levels of success.
It's more on the execution side for me personally, and I do still believe, look, the bunker could have worked on Sanctum. It had the right kind of, had the right kind of matchup to maybe still be worthwhile, but it's just, some poor things happen in the middle, typically towards the start actually, that kind of cost them. But moving into a new map, a new opportunity for T1W to kind of fight back, but I also do expect if EM now have a good gauge for their opponents, do they then step up to a different level and T1W can't catch up?
And maybe that's what this really is, right? Maybe this first little bit has just been Element Mystic figuring out T1W a little bit. Like we said, this is something they might be a bit more unfamiliar with compared to a lot of the teams they've played locally in their home region. They just need to sound things out a little bit, and then they can start unlocking the usual suspects in the form of Sparkle and Doha.
Yeah, and they've already been there. I mean, they're just kind of testing out the waters, very similar to what we've seen a couple of the other teams do. O2 Blast versus Order does come into mind. Competitive, you'd say, on that first map, and then less and less so as we get through the series. And does that become the truth for this kind of matchup as well? I think T1W have a few more chops to play with. Haven't even seen Media yet. That could be a hidden weapon. And once we get past that, then you can start deciding, okay, maybe T1W no longer have any tricks. But until that happens, you'd like to believe still could be upset potential.
And I suppose that is the last thing that, we talked about being a potential factor in this matchup that you're right, we haven't seen. Media on the Doomfist allows for a straight mirror matchup against Element Mystic, which is like the peak of unfamiliarity for them. And maybe that, like we said earlier, maybe that'll be the bogey. look, they've beaten all kinds of compositions with the Doomfist. They've beaten Bunkers, they've beaten 3-3, they've beaten Sombra Goats. Now they've also beaten what Element Mystic have brought to bear over Nepal, but can they actually beat themselves?
Yeah, it would be on paper you'd expect maybe a weaker version. It's like a Ditto clone almost. It's not quite there. It's like
it's like the twist villain is like now you have to fight yourself. So.
Controlled by the AI, which is never as good as you, hopefully. But what we do see is the problem will be you don't expect Miju to be as good as Sparkle. He even admits it. You probably don't expect Milan or even Assassin to be as good as Doha.
Yeah.
Certainly neither of these guys are Hacker from LGE. So this is now a matchup where I think T1W once again have more to play with, and until we've seen everything, we don't know if we can count them out.
But look, even if it's an 0-3 result for T1W, I guarantee in that space of time we will see everything because these guys seem absolutely hell-bent on playing something different every single stage, every single part of every single map. So, hey man, it's exciting to say the least.
I'll tell you what, this is the team that when we spoke to them, they said they like to experiment. They like to be the team that finds an answer to the problem. They make the solution to the problem, and they've actually, they've been the ones to kind of invent some compositions as well to some degree of success, whether that be good or bad, it depends. But in this kind of matchup, the current problem they're faced with is Sparkle on the Doomfist, Doha on the Sombra. What is the solution to that? Meej is now officially subbed in. Is that the solution?
I'd like to at least hope so. And the other thing I suppose we could say is a factor with T1W. Look, they are going to try a lot of different team compositions. And that does mean they can't just kind of keep cycling through what they have in the pocket until they find the one that works. It's like when you got a key ring with a bunch of keys on it. And you just keep going, like, you just go road. You go one by one. You brute force it until you find the one that does unlock the door. Because Element Mystic, they are like a one-size-fits kind of lock, right? They don't have too much flexibility in their own right. They can either go Sombra Goats or they play the Sombra Doomfist.
I'll tell you the Element Mystic version. You talked about a bunch of keys on a key ring. The Element Mystic version is just a USB stick. It's 50-50. You try it one way, it doesn't go. Try it the other way, probably goes. Try it again. Oh, it was the original way, of course.
Yeah. Oh, we actually should have just played the Doomfist all along. That's fine. I don't know how that happens. So they've actually invented a universal USB stick where it just works both ways up. I don't know why that's not standard issue already. But anyway.
Standard issue for map 2 is King's Row.
Thank you very much. But yeah, so that's going to be the pick of T1W as well, who are still desperately trying to live up to their namesake.
It's 3 out of 3. Every single match so far has been going to King's Row.
Yep. And I think it's... Part of that is that this is a good kind of quote-unquote neutral ground. Like, this is not a meta where maps tend to be more heavily favored for one team than another, with some very few exceptions.
When you get to Escort, I'd say you start getting that turn.
Yeah, more so, and that's the thing. As we're coming into King's Row here, I mean, I don't know, maybe you could say this is more a T1W thing because you could play so many things. At the end of the day, it's a map that everyone's familiar with.
Rolling out the gates. It might be T1W playing a little bit more standard. Actually, it's probably more like Element Mystic, but you do see a Sombra, so defense is probably EM here. And Doa's going to do some early scouting, early damage. Again, watch his ult charge rate because that's the deadliest thing about this guy.
Good rotation by T1W, though, straight around. Doa does start to get that ult charge up, but Hanbin's already down, so the aggression from T1W. EM haven't quite dealt with it. A lot of low members, though, on T1W, slowly but surely topping the health bars up.
And that's because of the triple Bionade landed by Undyne as well. It just slows down T1W. We have 2 ticks now. And speaking of slow, Element Mystic need to go on point.
On Sparkle, and he is done for. Bubble on Silver as well to keep him alive. And he pays that one back double. I mean, this is incredible, right? This is just good 3-3, absolutely dismantling Element Mystic.
And now they're going to be pushing on to B. 1 attempt so far. There's been no real slowdown. Sparkle, not really a big factor. Undyne kind of put a bit of a hurdle in the works for T1W, but aside from that, Doha off 1 fight, and we do, again, address the ult charge here, off of 1 fight, and even a lost fight, nearly on an EMP.
I mean, that is just the power of him, and last time they were in that position, that 1 EMP was enough to enable a fight win, so Element Mystic not necessarily out of the picture here for this next fight.
I think Element Mystic should go pretty quick here. Go with the EMP. Let Sparkle go with the Doomfist as well.
There you have it, man. Right on. All 6 found as well, and it's more than enough to get that fight win. The triple fire grenade certainly helping out with that. counter trade comes in on top of Alpha, but it's T1W sent packing.
And it's literally everyone landing the correct abilities and the timing so perfect as well. T1W, despite winning the first fight, they were still waiting for a few ultimates. They weren't quite ready. If they were, that would have been a far more one-sided fight or a far more even fight going the way of T1W. But because they were missing a few, Sombra EMP covers a decent amount. Sparkle gets a nano boost. He gets in there, lands damage. Undying as well, hitting all his the sleep darts and the bio nades. That's all you need.
Speaking of sleep darts, Silver eats one on his way down. Shatter comes out. Not a whole lot done just yet as they start committing the grabs in. That's Hunbin and Sparkle done for, so Mija able to find the mileage required. That ultimate and super critical for T1W as well. That's the kind of high-tempo fight when they needed to swing things back in their favor.
And it's a really important clapback as well because they had the ultimates to play with. Winning that first fight gave them the ult charge. They didn't quite get the ult charge again in time for fight 2, but in fight 3, they're more than ready. And Element Mystic, we're fighting on borrowed time. That borrowed time now is going to let them attempt to get something done on the end of B, but T1W have a lot of progress.
Let's start talking about fight 4 though, because Doha unsurprisingly close to an EMP. That's an early pick as well from Sparkle onto Milan. So the one thing that can best shut him down is out of the picture. What more can EM get at this rate? The answer is the entirety of T1W. You heard that right. That was a triple for Sparkle. Gonna get the DMAC on high B as well. That's a delayed full team wipe here.
You didn't even need the Space Jam combo, the Meteor Strike into the Graviton Surge, and for T1W, unfortunately walking into the big fist of the Sparkles, and this is just insane so far. You now have a lot of ultimates available, EMP back in Doa's hands. This should be where you see Element Mystic kind of dig their heels back and really set up for this next defense. And for T1W, they might not get a lot more progress if they don't kind of get the win conditions back in their hands.
That's the reality against EM as well. You can execute well so often, but all it takes is one rough fight and suddenly they'll out-execute you and can start running away with the match from there. So T1W are actually on the back foot just as quick as that. Self-destruct up and EMP out from Doha. He goes down too. That self-destruct, that's huge. And thanks to Illusion's sound barrier, that EMP itself didn't really do too much. T1W, who are well ahead in this fight. Sparkle gonna go ahead and drop this one down on the payloads. Doesn't get anything for it. They read it. It was anticipated. Will get out with his life, but certainly not with his ultimate, and the cap comes through for T1W.
And honestly, we're lucky to get out with his life. Hunbin not so lucky in that regard.
Yep.
T1W pushing through. You kind of felt like maybe the next fight would be difficult for them, but as soon as EMP from Doha came through, guess what? Illusion immediate counter with the sound barrier. Then they caught the members. They got Doha out of there. 6v5. Sparkle did not a lot in that fight as well, and T1W continue rolling in. This is very, very good from the team.
It feels like T1W are really matching EM for execution here. Is now double grabs out on this cart here, and it is Element Mystic getting the better end of that trade. So once again, these fights just go one way than the other. T1W out executes, then EM out executes, but when EM out executes, it is much more one-sided.
Keep flipping that coin, man, because that's kind of what's happening so far. You'd expect Element Mystic. They are in a decent position. EMP's nearly back on available. Look at WES charge as well. The Transcendence is going to be very key in countering that ability out. T1W still have a lot of time to work with. 3 minutes is decent. We are looking at time back now, which will be a factor.
T1W do not have a lot to go on here either. Sparkle's just maybe fishing for something.
A defensive play.
Comes back down.
To get him alive.
Reposition a little. T1W now, they do actually have something, but that EMP, man, it's always a factor. And with that, Silver is down. We are not able to save him thanks to that biotic grenade landing on Silver. So, Milan ran down as well. Element Mystic, a classic one there, able to win a fight off the EMP alone. And for the first time on King's Row, a team has won 2 fights in a row.
And this is where, I said this on B, but I'll say it for C because this feels a little bit more accurate now. They will dig in their heels properly. C point, they do have the ability to have the respawn advantage as well. T1W, a lot of eyes on Silver 3 to maybe get something done with the Earth Shatter as Doha is in his cooldown mode. Feels like a cooldown when he's using the EMP.
Maybe that's how you got to beat the final boss. You know, you've got to learn the patterns, play around it. Nice stun on Alpha. He's going to go down. Sparkle does get a catch on the back line. Meteor Strike as well on top of the scrap. Could be devastating. It is! Finds 2 and 2 massive picks at that. Now 3 fights in a row for the side of Element Mystic, and this is a line that has been drawn in the sand.
And this is the kind of combo that we've been waiting to see. He hasn't used it too many times, but when he does, lands on 2 members, gets a double kill, still preserves the EMP. Huge plays by Element Mystic, who are able to completely put a stop to this offense from T1W. So much time is off now. We started this point with about 3 minutes something. We're now down below 2, and T1W don't have a lot of chances left.
And Doha's got a sick position here, all 6 members. Not that they had any defensive ultimates that could have kept them alive during that anyway. play, but again, an absolute wash in favor of Element Mystic. And once again, it feels close until suddenly Element Mystic start running away with the map.
But these have to be the type of fights now going into the next one for T1W that they have to have advantage of, because Doha does not have an EMP. After this fight, he probably will have an EMP, so the timing has to happen now. This has got to be the fight where T1W can win.
I don't know, maybe it's going to be a grab self-destruct combo. Something's got to give here. Element Mystic aren't exactly far off other ultimates anyway. Self-destruct forward from High B to make a bit of space. Great hack on Illusion, and Sparkle's there to confirm the kill. T1W eating a biotic grenade. A lot of low members here. Silver barely staying alive as they start to finally make some headway in the fight. Sound barrier out from Unique. Grab in from Hanbin as well. Element Mystic have committed almost everything they have, and it's starting to pay off as they pick up a few more kills on the side of T1W, who are now once again going to be driven back to spawn.
And this is where Element Mystic had a few more ultimates still available, and Doha now nearly on that EMP too. T1W had a very late grab from Major, doesn't quite get enough. Let's take a look at the replay.
I mean, this was just a brilliantly placed grab. The Meteor Strike on top, but this is a couple of fights ago. This is such a Sparkle classic.
And now, unfortunately for T1W, only sitting about 15 seconds, they will be able to touch the cart, but even if they win this next fight, they have to push through to the end in overtime.
And it's against all the greatest hits of Element Mystic, an EMP on Doha, a Meteor Strike on Sparkle, and T1W get it done here. They do not have anything to work with. EMP is not the hottest, only gets 3, but it's enough to kill Silver. Speaking of 3, Hybe slept for a moment, then hacked and stunned and all kinds of crowd control. Meteor Strike is pretty much style points at this juncture as T1W absolutely and surely driven back, and on the steel plates there will be a line drawn in the eye and the cart will progress no further, say Element Mystic.
And that's exactly the type of play we expect from Element Mystic, to be able to complete a hold somewhere on the map. We will not be going to a time back. However, speaking to the side of T1W, a decent offense, all things considered. Let's remember what happened on A. Pretty clean run through. They got that in one attempt. On B, couple of hiccups, traded a lot of fights between themselves and Element Mystic, pretty 50-50 overall. Getting on to C, that's when Element Mystic really takes control of the game. That's their zone, that's their part of the map, and that was where T1W could not progress any further.
Now, ZM's turn. It's up to them to make good on what they have set up for themselves. With that cap not coming through for T1W, Element Mystic have the opportunity to push through, get far enough in C, and they've put themselves at match point.
I do also like the confidence from Element Mystic to be staying on well, we knew they were going to stay on Sombra, but to even then stay on the Doomfist as well for basically the whole map, and going to the T1W side, who are now going to be defending. Are they going to finally try and do something similar? We haven't seen Major on the Doomfist just yet, and that should have been the X factor. That should have been that extra gun underneath the seat, underneath the table that Element Mystic are still looking for.
We're still waiting to see it, right? And maybe it's actually not the Chekhov's gun that we've chalked it up to be, right? Maybe they're just not going to play it at all. Maybe it's not something in the repertoire, something that they don't think is worth trying. And I mean, I'm not saying that that is the case, but if it is, I would be sorely disappointed. I think that could be the X factor.
And despite, we'll see how this map goes anyway for Kings Row, and this could easily, you could see, be a 2-0 in favor of Element Mystic, and that would be such a shame for a team like T1W, who seem to be quite competitive in this matchup despite how much of a favorite EM are, and for them to really not be able to take a map, well, that'd be upsetting.
And I mean, Element Mystic do come into this tournament as a whole as the team to beat. So not getting a map would not be unsurprising in itself, but you would still say you want to show something a bit more competitive here. So now on the defense, T1W just running the same thing, but with the Sombra in the mix now.
A couple of love taps there to the players on the T1W side. Everyone lives so far, and double Sombras up from both sides. Milanron already hacked out.
Yeah, he did slip out though with a translocate just as the hack was completing as well. So now Element Mystic starting to square up around the point itself.
It's going to be the Nano Boost coming through first. That might be the X Factor here. Undying's looking at that very hard. Sparkle's getting the damage in as well.
Silver took a big chunk for a second there and hasn't really recovered from it just yet. So this is where EM can hit the go button. Alpha's in first. Finds his counterpart. Is low himself. May just get traded out. Finally will. And Sparkle goes down in the same breath. Meejin, though, caught up in the grab of Hanbin, who outpaced them just slightly. Might have been a bit of a Bit of a mistake to commit that, though, is T1W are going to hold on here.
And that's the kind of multi-angle play from T1W that it's so successful, because you see the POV of Alpha. He doesn't know where to look. He's damaged from the front, the back, the sides. He goes down. Sparkle went down somewhere on the side as well. That's a 6v4 straight away for T1W, who are definitely still alive, who are definitely in control.
So this is also a better defense so far for T1W than what Element Mystic had on their side of things. That is going to really help them out as we start to move into the streets phase. Assuming we get there, by the way. EMP out is really big, but Sparkle's already down, and Illusion had a sound barrier. It was enough to see them through. Good sleep on wire, buys a bit more time before Transcendence is a factor, but it will still be a factor.
And this is now another pseudo fight win for T1W. If they can continue this, you could be looking at a hold. If you're not looking at a hold, you're looking at a lot of time run off the clock. A couple of low members might cost them some positioning, but it's Element Mystic, they got to get something done.
There's an ult for an ult as well, and you'd wish we really had the EMP. Doa, he will charge that one back up soon enough, I'm sure, but right now Element Mystic gonna have to find some other engage tool.
And this is a defensive EMP. They don't really want to walk into Element Mystic here. They want Element Mystic to actually commit into them and then counter with the EMP after that happens. So waiting to see what EM do, and it's going to be Sparkle.
Nano boost onto him. He gets hacked out, really hamstrings the mobility, but Sound Barrier keeps him alive. Can't say the same for Alpha. Also can't say that for Hanbin. And Sparkle, for all the noise and flashing lights, end up just going in, ducking straight back out.
That's what we're waiting for. You want to see Sparkle dive in. You want to see the Nano Boost committed on top of him. That's the go button from Milan Run, who's saying, I got an EMP. As soon as they go in, I will counter this play out. I will be the one to shut down Element Mystic, and T1W still continue holding. Can't believe I'm saying this, but EM only have 1 minute left.
I mean, this is insane. We're approaching 1.5 fight territory right now, and still ultimates available. Yeet that grab in. Everyone's caught up in the air right now. That is a decent bionic grenade, though, from Undyne to keep the team healthy. See how long that lasts for, though. If someone goes down, poor Doa gets that EMP. That's big! Can they get more? They have found Sparkle, as well as Hanbin. Alpha does get one in the counter charge, but it costs him his own life. And T1W are again going to win the fight. Element Mystic haven't even got a tick, and they've only got 30 seconds.
I gotta say, though, EM are in position. They have the Nano Boost again. They have the Meteor Strike for Sparkle if he gets into trouble. They do have the EMP, which is so huge. T1W have to survive this. When they do, they're gonna win this map. They have double support ultimates, so the likelihood is certainly there.
This has got to be it for Element Mystic. They've got to show us that these ultimates, these DPSs can still bring the team through when all else has failed them, because so far all else has failed them. EMP, same beat as last time. Sound Barrier counters it. Hack on Sparkle, he gets dropped. Malandron's on fire right now, and you can hear that local crowd going for it. T1W are going to do it. They're going to full hold out Element Mystic here on King's Row. We wondered what the X Factor was going to be. Why was it this map in particular? Well, T1W will finally get one on the board.
I'll tell you what, Gen G could not take a map off of Element Mystic. O2 Blast could not take a map off of Element Mystic. You know who can? It's the one winner. They got to get that one on King's Row. Fantastic place. Super well defended. Their attack was even good. They didn't finish the map. Doesn't matter. They don't let Element Mystic finish the map either.
Yeah, like you can get like 1 meter on the payload and still win if you fully hold. That is the power that T1W just demonstrated. EM are going to have to go back to the drawing board, because that was just against Sombra Goats as well. That wasn't even any one of the wacky things that T1W can bring to bear.
And I want to say this has been the best part of the map for T1W. Look at their attacking, and this is the cleanest part of their gameplay. Look at the defense. Obviously, that's all we saw was on A. I wonder what would have happened onto B and C. Part of me does believe that if Element Mystic got onto B, started pushing the cart, we would have seen them complete the game, complete the map where they should have, and then possibly take this game to a 2-0. But that's not what it is right now. It's a 1-1, guys, and that means we got a competitive game on our hands. We'll see you right after the break.
Apagando las luces.
Vamos, escucha!